And we are live. Hi, my name's Tristan, and today I want to answer a question that I get asked a lot more than I actually expected to. Um, and that is, what's the easiest, fastest, and most efficient way of learning how to use AI for your business, for yourself, for whatever it is that you want to do? And so I want to walk you through a couple different kind of learning things just that help facilitate the process. And then we're going to dive into a few other resources and tools and potentially even a project if we can come up with something fun. So let's go ahead and get into that. First things first, though, I invite you to come and join my Facebook group. It is facebook.com/group/ChatGPT Cult. This is where I post silly stuff all the time and spam people with updates to different tools and resources and things like that. And I personally think it's kind of fun. I have been tempted to update this to like a Harpa cult or a Claude cult or just like AI in general, but I haven't gotten around to it, and we'll have to think about that and come up with an idea later. Secondly, we need to do this kind of quick because in an hour and a half, the new season of Path of Exile is starting, and we don't want to miss that, even though it's going to take a while for servers to catch up. So, about a year ago, I had the opportunity to speak at a YouTube marketing conference called Vid Summit. And I got to speak with some really cool folks. So that's Peter Hollins, that's Matt Wolf, and this is Bilaval Sidhu. And really cool guys. We talked about some really cool stuff. We didn't get to get into like super deep stuff, but one question that did come up a couple times was, hey, I want to learn how to use AI. I want to understand how AI works. That way I can actually use it and get some value out of it and use it in my business. And everybody gave some great responses. And then it came to me, and I gave kind of my standard response, and that is, you got to have fun with it. Like, you kind of just need to screw around with it. You need to have some kind of a crazy idea that you just want to see if you can do it. Then you want to kind of push towards that goal and see what can happen and see what comes out of it. And there are a few main tools that you would use to do something like that. But before we kind of get into all that, I want to talk a little bit about the brain. Okay, this might be like, Tristan, what does this have to do with AI stuff? But it's actually really relevant and important, because this is going to make that learning process a little bit easier and faster. And actually, while that's going, let me open up a couple things over here real quick. I want to do this one, and I want to turn on this one as well. So, first thing I actually want to talk to you guys about is learning styles. So your learning style is kind of like your preferred way of learning. It's not the only way that you learn, it's just the way that you enjoy the most, okay? And typically that kind of falls into three groups. There's actually kind of a fourth that influences all this as well. So you have your audio learners. So these are people who like lectures, audiobooks, discussions, talking with people, those kinds of things. You have visual learners, again, videos, illustrations, PowerPoints. You have kinesthetic learners. Those are tactical, hands-on workshops, those kinds of things. And then there's actually a fourth quadrant that's related to this. That is the emotional learner. Now, typically we think about emotions like crying and that kind of stuff for those kinds of things, but it can also just be, there needs to be some sort of an emotional reason for learning the thing. There needs to be not even necessarily an emotional reason, but there just needs to be a reason. There needs to be some sort of motivation behind learning that thing. And I actually think it's really interesting. So I've gone through, there's a bunch of tests you can take online in order to kind of figure out where these things land, and I actually kind of look like this is kind of what my quadrant looks like. And surprisingly, I'm actually very much an emotional learner. And I'll talk about that in a second, but I really like visual, I really like kinesthetic, and I score really low on audio. And the reason I score so low on audio is because I'm actually hard of hearing. I am partially deaf in both ears due to some like ear infections and other damage I had as a kid. And so I just don't hear people very well, right? And so if I wanted to try and learn more about AI, if I were to sit and to talk to somebody about it, then I actually don't get as much value out of it, because I had to spend more time trying to focus on being able to hear you and like understand what it is you're actually saying than I do actually learning the thing. And so that turns into a big issue for me. Also, another reason I don't particularly enjoy public schools is just because they sit and they talk to you for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and it just kind of sucks. But that being said, like, there are ways you can kind of tie in some of these other learning styles into that. So again, I don't do particularly well with audio, but if I can put on some headphones, crank up the volume enough so I can actually hear what's going on, and then if I'm able to like manually write notes like with a pen and paper, then that helps me a lot. Or if I can take that information afterwards for like my notes and then put it into like a graph or something. Like that helps me a lot. I am very much more inclined to this kind of visual type things. And even when I'm going through and putting together like these graphs and everything, I'm actually going through and writing them out, drawing them out by hand first, and then putting them into this. That way I can kind of see them a little bit more clearly. I think it helps quite a bit. And this actually drives my wife a little bit crazy because, for example, at church, then I will be sitting there playing on my phone. She goes, Tristan, you're supposed to be paying attention to what the people are saying. This is church. But what's actually happening is, again, I can't hear super well. Now, typically volumes are kind of turned up so you can hear things a little bit better. But I usually have some kind of game on my phone, right? So like I'm obsessed with this game right now. It's called Sci-Fi, and it is CIFI. And it's a idle space game. It's lots of math, those kinds of things. And I kind of love it because like you click things, you tap on it, and then you come back a little while later and then the numbers go up. And what's really interesting about that is by having that kind of visual and tactile stimulation, it actually lets me pay better attention or better retain the stuff that I'm hearing. So that way I'm able to learn a little bit better. Now the emotion part is where things kind of get interesting because typically, like I said, when you think about something being an emotional thing, we kind of think again like negative emotions, being sad or being angry or whatever, but there's also that positive or even kind of a neutral side to that as well. So I remember I read a book when I was 13, 14 years old, and it was about how to hack your brain. And one of the things that they were talking about there is how to improve your memory. And the book said, and for the life of me I can't find the book anymore, but the book had said that one of the easiest ways to remember something is if you can immediately attach some sort of an emotion to that memory. And they gave a really interesting example. Think back to like your most embarrassing moment in your life, right? You can remember every freaking detail of that moment. Like you can remember like what you were wearing. You can remember where you were. You can remember like what things looked like. Like there's very, very strong emotional memory attached to that. One of the other really interesting things is looking at like your senses. So like your sense of smell is very closely tied to your brain's memory sector. And so like things that you smell actually trigger memories a lot more effectively as well. So like I said, so an easy way that you can actually do this without having to embarrass yourself in order to kind of lock a memory in, the easiest way to do it is actually through humor, through finding something funny. And so doing something that like takes that memory and then just makes it into something ridiculous, that makes it easier for you to remember that thing, which is kind of cool. So for example, we'll come back to that later. But so then, like I said, I just have like my little notes over here just kind of explaining all of this. But so like this is how I like to learn. I like to watch somebody do the thing, and then I like to try it myself. And then in order to sort of strengthen that memory, I like to have something kind of ridiculous that I'm working on, just because that kind of gets my brain going. The other thing is that I really, really like puzzle solving. I really like solving problems. And so that also kind of triggers that emotional thing. Now, that emotional part is important because then we get to talk about dopamine, because dopamine is actually really interesting. And again, this has a lot to do with learning AI. I promise, please don't think I'm going crazy over here. It's a little late for that. But dopamine is the reward chemical in your brain. So whenever you do a thing, you get that little shot of satisfaction, that little reward, thing in your head that makes you go, I did it. It's over. I made my bed. I washed the dishes. I made $1 million, whatever. That's dopamine. And there's lots of ways that you can get dopamine. So you can get it through completing a task, through doing something that's very novel, exercise, certain kinds of music, getting praise and recognition, certain kinds of drugs. Caffeine is actually a dopamine stimulant, right? And even video games. The video games kind of have that, it actually kind of mixes a bunch of these other things in it. But that's one of the reasons, for example, that video games are so addictive is because it creates a dopamine cycle. So again, if we go back to where'd you go? To Path of Exile, like you run around, you kill stuff, things go boom, and then you see like the cool little graphics and everything, and then you get a new sword. Well, now you get to kill things even faster, right? And so that means you get even more dopamine that comes out of it, and then you get to push higher and higher levels and get bigger and bigger bosses and whatever, and it's just like this constant dopamine cycle. And what's kind of interesting about that is that we can actually take that same idea, we can take that same addiction to dopamine, and we can use that as a way to improve and increase and speed up our learning processes for whatever it is that we want to learn. So And then just kind of an additional thing, if we then also look at our learning styles and different types of stimulation that we can receive, all that is also going to cause that memory to be stronger. So if you are watching, for example, a YouTube live stream by some super attractive gentleman like myself, and you're listening to my audio, you're listening to my voice, you're looking at the visual stuff, I'm kind of triggering some emotional stuff by trying to get you excited about a video game. And if there's kinesthetic, I don't know, pinch your finger or something, so that way you have that physical interaction as well. That's actually going to cause the memory of the stuff that I'm talking about to be significantly stronger. And it's going to be easier to recall, and then it's going to be easier to use that information in the future. And you're also going to have more things connected to it, okay? Because what we're learning about right now, we're talking about learning AI, but we're also talking about learning in general. So the next time somebody talks about learning stuff, or next time you're at church and you're bored, or you're in a meeting and you're bored, and you think, oh, I should probably download that game Tristan was talking about, that's going to trigger all this entire pathway because this is all connected to it as part of that neuron chain, okay? So that's great, but how do we use this information to learn about AI? I have a suggestion, and this is the suggestion that I made in that conference as well. Find something stupid. Find something that's just dumb, but that makes you laugh. Something that's just silly. Something that is goofy. And then try to make that, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be finished. You don't even have to finish the thing. You just need to learn that process. You just need to understand how the different tools work together and then start connecting those things. And then also, in case anybody's curious, this whole dopamine thing is actually what causes ADHD. So ADHD isn't a question of somebody not having self-discipline or not having, whatever. It's that their brains just don't produce enough dopamine. And so they don't get that reward from paying attention to the thing. And so it feels incredibly boring. It feels like there is no reason to be doing the thing. It's kind of pointless because you're not getting that reward from it. Your brain is trained to say this action is not important because it's not generating dopamine, whereas other actions do. So just one of the interesting things to keep in mind about that. But yeah, so that being said, let's see if we can come up with something kind of silly that we can do and move forward. And then real quick, just a couple of examples. I'm going to pull this up. If you want to learn math or want to kind of teach somebody, like a kid, how to do math, this is a really, really good game for it. So with this, what you do is you have these little blocks. Each of these blocks produces a number, and then you have to use different mathematical functions in order to generate a different number. So like I need a whole bunch of 613s in order to level up my thing. And so you go through and you multiply, you add, you subtract, you go through these different mathematical functions in order to reach that number. And that's kind of what I've been working on over here. I kind of have a lot of these things. But this is a really good game. This is called Beltmatic, and it's on Steam. It's like $8. And then another one that's really good for this same kind of concept is this right here. This is called The Farmer Was Replaced, and this teaches you Python. So like I wrote all of this code. These are all mine, and it's kind of cool. So if I push this button, it clears up my map. If I tell it that I want to plant trees and bushes, this is the code that plants trees and bushes. And like I got to learn Python in order to make this thing work. And it's, again, really, really cool. And it's turning that learning process into a game. And this is also on Steam. It's also very inexpensive. How much does this one cost? $7. So another game I highly recommend, especially if you have like a kid who wants to learn this kind of stuff, then and that's kind of a good place to go and to start. So that being said, let's look at some of the tools and resources that we have available to us. I have been thinking about playing through Baldur's Gate 3 with my little brothers, and I kind of want to just create like a ridiculous character. So Baldur's Gate 3, Dungeons and Dragons on the computer, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I got to make something really ridiculous. I need to come up with like just something that's just goofy and silly, but that's still actually viable, right? And so let's see if we can build that. Let's see if we can make like a character builder for like Baldur's Gate 3. Or if anybody else has any like silly ideas, please put them in chat and we'll see what else we can do, because I don't know if anybody else is going to be super interested in Baldur's Gate 3. Or let's see, what would be another fun thing. So another project that I'm kind of playing around with right now, it's a little bit more advanced than what I want to get into in this video, but I want to build a fake ghost hunting app, right? So I want to build an app that then you put on your phone. It's got like the little fake camera feed, and then it's actually tying into like ChatGPT or one of these other AIs, and it's like listening, right? And so like every couple minutes, it's going to just randomly reply to you with like one or two words, like make it sound super cryptic and make it sound kind of creepy. And so it sounds like you're talking to the ghost in the area, but you're not actually talking to the ghost. You're talking like the AI is just replying to you. And again, I think it's funny, right? And so, like I said, that's the kind of project that I recommend that you kind of start out with. And there's a couple reasons for this. So one, because it is kind of just a silly thing, you're going to be constantly getting this dopamine rush out of it, right? Because like we're talking about emotions, and that easiest way to kind of strengthen those emotions, or that kind of emotional, or the easiest way to strengthen a memory is to tie some sort of emotion to it. Again, humor is an emotion, laughing is an emotion. And so if you can do something that you're sitting there thinking, well, this is actually really funny, and kind of imagining that kind of future funny situation, that's going to make this a lot easier to remember how you actually did the thing. The other important part to this is that it's also going to be providing that dopamine rush. And that dopamine rush is going to be doing two things. One is going to continue to strengthen that memory, so you recall how to do it, but it's also going to be rewarding you as you're progressing through that process, right? Because now it's not just, okay, I want to see if I can do this silly thing. Now it's, okay, so these are the steps I need to take. Oh, I just finished step 1. Cool. Oh, I just finished step 3 or 2. Cool. And it kind of helps you keep going. Then also, if you're doing it just for fun, like if it's kind of just an experiment to see if you can, then there's a lot less pressure on you for trying to figure out how to do it and try to make $1 million off of it with your first, few prompts, right? So that's the other thing that I'd recommend. So I'm actually a little bit more tempted to work on that than I am to work on the Baldur's Gate 3 thing. So let's do that. Unfortunately, ChatGPT is not going to be a good option for us because somebody put in its program and like in its censorship and rules and everything that it will not pretend to be a ghost. I am not joking. I tried doing this last year and it was working really great. Just as like a really simple system, right? And they actually updated it as I was using it, and it refused to keep working after that. It was so sad. But we'll go ahead and ask. Maybe they've updated that. I want to build an app that simulates ghost hunting apps, but I want it to be a joke. I want to send you audio and for you to reply every 4 to 5 minutes with I'll say 1 or 2 say cryptic but related words. Can you do that? Oh, they've updated it. Hallelujah. Okay, so in that case, we're going to go ahead and move forward with this. So, we want to build this app, right? There's a few different things that we're going to need then in order to kind of move forward with this. So, let's kind of start Googling some stuff. Actually, we're not going to Google stuff. We're going to go to Perplexity. We're going to use AI to build this AI. So, Perplexity, new thread. What are good app builders that let you use OpenAI connections, integration, something like that. Now, I actually kind of already have an idea of what I'm looking for, but again, we'll come back to this. So let's see here. Flutterflow is actually the one I want to use, but it said Glide is really good. Glide is a no-code app builder that allows you to create custom interfaces and integrate OpenAI APIs. Great. Chatbots and other AI features. Oh, I skipped down. Supports various integrations, making it simple for beginners and advanced users alike. Let's check it out. This is great, but it's not quite what we're looking for. So let's keep looking. So Zapier's cool. I don't think it would actually work for what we want to do. It might work well for like a back-end thing, but what Zapier does is it's an automation tool. And it's very, very powerful. It's very, very useful. In fact, if I were to tell, like, somebody comes to me and says, hey, what do I need to do in order to make money with AI? then I would say, okay, thing number one, can't hear me very well. Let me turn up my volume a little bit because it's working. I'm pretty much maxed out over here. Is anybody else having audio problems hearing me? Let me know, and if so, then I will adjust something on my microphone. Because it's popping up over here, like that's about where it's supposed to be when I talk. So, yeah, like I said, let me know. But yeah, so Zapier. Oh, right. So I was saying, so if you want to just learn how to make good money using AI, learning Zapier, learning Flutterflow, and then learning just how to use like your chat GPTs or using like Claude and like learning how to do like API stuff, that's the easiest, fastest way to make some good money. Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Like you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with that. In fact, that's what I'm using to build my Super Assistant project, which I'll show you guys real quick, and I'll save that for later. So yeah, Softer is another no-code app builder, allows you to quickly build front-end and back-end functionality with AI, and integrates well with Google Sheets. Back-end, I'm looking more for like a mobile app. Create is an AI app builder that allows you to build apps using a single prompt. Okay, let's try that. Create app builder. Let's see what that looks like. Where's the actual tool? We don't want any ads because it doesn't help us. Where is it? We'll just see if it works. Start building for free. Yeah, resume scanner, City Explorer, Google Maps, a sign-up page, visual search engine. So these are okay, but these look more like website apps. And not exactly what we're looking for. Zapier, I'm not familiar with. Low-code Office extensive capabilities building. All right, so let's just kind of go with the one that we already know is going to work, right? So say we're going to go through, we're going to kind of investigate some of these different tools. We're going to look into it, find out which one's actually going to do what it is that we want to do. It also kind of helps to go through and like list out, okay, so we're going to build an app that is a fake ghost hunting app, right? Where's my whiteboard of truth and justice? All right, so we're going to say this is a ghost. Right? Ooh. And then we'll say like, I wonder if I'd get in trouble for doing like a bullseye on YouTube now after all the other stuff that's been happening lately. Okay, Ghost Hunter app, done. So what do we need this thing to do? We need to have a camera feed, right? So we're gonna have like your little camera thing like that. That's gonna be our camera feed. We also know that we need to have an audio input and audio output, because it needs to be able to hear us. Actually, this is right. It's a lot easier if I switch it over to this. And then we also need to be able to hear it, right? So audio going in, audio coming out. This part's going to be the app builder part. This part is going to be OpenAI, and we're going to attach that via an API. And so in order to do that, we're probably also going to want to create an assistant. But again, we'll kind of talk about going into these things a little bit deeper as we go. I'm just going to kind of fast forward through the process a little bit. But really, like, these are just like different AI tools. Like, they're just available to everybody. Like, you can access them. They're just sitting right here. You just need to know that they exist, right? So we have this. Let's go over to then our Flutterflow. I actually have the app for this thing downloaded too. I might try that as well. But so let's do this, and we're also going to do a quick search. We're going to say Flutterflow. We'll just say, like, what do we even call this? Camera app template. Does anybody already have one done? Check Reddit. Like, we don't actually need it to take a picture. We just need the audio. And like put some like fake graphs on it or something. So we could almost do it like a QR code scanner, but we don't really need that. Let's open up the app real quick. Tap here to refresh. And then we're actually going to build a new one. Create new. Do they have... Alright, so we're going to call this Ghost Hunter Claude. We'll just call it the Ghost Hunter. I didn't actually look to see if they had any templates already built up. Now, web platform support for your project. Later, you can make any changes. We don't care about that. We're going to go ahead and keep things in dark mode because dark mode is always the best mode. And we want something that's kind of creepy looking here. So let's do... we need something with like some dark grays and stuff. Alright, well that's closest. So let's go ahead and go around with that. Click next step. We don't have any of these other things. We're just going to say go to home, I guess. We'll just say Hunter. There we go. Keep it cool. And start building. And now with this, we're going to cheat even further because I believe we're going to... I think there's a way you can just have the AI do it for you. So let's do this. Let's search for camera. Nope, nothing there. No component. Is there anything over here that we can do? Nope. Nothing in the flows either. How can we do this? A storyboard thingy, there's all that. Media assets? Oh, okay, that's not what we're looking for either. But, trying to think here. What we really need is just... guess I create a project of the project with the whatever. Import the camera package. Okay, we'll come back to this part because again, this is a tool that I'm still learning, and I'll kind of show you what I'm working on with this part as well. But let's kind of keep playing with the idea a little bit, right? So we're initially talking about doing this with ChatGPT over here. If we wanted to, we could actually even start messing around with this right now as is. So all we would need to do is to open this up on our phones. So like with the ChatGPT app. In fact, let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's close all this other stuff out because we got a whole bunch of notifications all of a sudden. ChatGPT. Let's turn this thing up. And we'll kind of do this in two different ways. So if I were to build this into an actual app, then I would use the assistants and not the custom GPTs. And the reason why is because assistant is basically the same thing as a custom GPT, only you have to access them through something else or through the playground here. And they just kind of give you a lot more options, a lot more opportunities, and a lot more like power, right? The other cool thing about these things is that you can dump just a crap ton of files into them and they're able to use it. And again, we'll come back to this project a little bit later because this is the one that I'm actually working on right now. But they're really, really easy to build. So you just go to platform.openai.com. Again, it's the same thing as your custom GPTs. We're going to go to Assistant. We're going to click Create. We're going to grab this one here. We're going to call this Ghost Hunter. And then we're going to give it our instructions. You are a ghost. How are we going to say this? We're going to say, it's like we need to come up with some instructions for it, right? Just kind of tell it what is it we want it to do. You are the voice of a fake / joke ghost hunting app. I just don't want it to say that it can't do this anymore. You will receive communication via audio message from the user. You will not respond to each message that you receive. Instead, you will reply every, let's say, like 2 to 3 minutes with a 1 or 2 word response that is cryptic yet relevant to what the user has said. So let's add some stuff to this. Cryptic, creepy, and scary. What the user has said. I think that's fine. We're going to change this to... Alright, so that's the name of our system. Here are the instructions for it. The model's just which version of ChatGPT you want it to use. Like GPT-4o Mini is the fastest and cheapest version that's out there right now that I'm aware of. If we want to add in some file search and code interpreter, we don't necessarily need those right now. We don't necessarily need JSON objects right now. We don't need to add any functions to this right now. We could in the future if we ever want to do something cool with this, but for now I think this is good. And then you just click create. Oh, I didn't. We already need to do that. It's already done. And then if you wanted to then take this and attach it to something like Flutterflow, then all you need is this number right here on your API, and you can actually plug this into that other app. But we're not going to be doing that right now because that's a little bit more complicated than what we want to show off in this video. So instead, we're going to do a custom GPT. So we're going to go back to OpenAI. We're going to go to GPTs. We're going to click create. We're going to drop our instructions in here that we just wrote. We're going to call this Ghost Hunter. Pretends to be a ghost. We don't need to give it anything else. It doesn't need web browsing. We can go ahead and turn that off. Maybe we'll leave in image generation just that way people can be like, what do you look like? And then it can provide like a picture of itself or something. That would be kind of funny. And then it needs a picture. We'll use Dolly to make the picture. I'd also just get a screenshot like that. I'm kind of curious to see what it comes up with. While that's going, we'll go ahead and try this as well. Oh, that's actually not bad. So this is Discord, and in Discord you can run an app called Midjourney, which is this right here, and it lets you also create some images. So let's say a ghost, oops, not describe, we need imagine. Let's say a ghost in crosshairs logo art style. And let's say like simple line art, maybe. Let's try that. I'm actually not very good at prompting Midjourney, which is kind of funny. That's the background for this thumbnail that you're watching. Alright, I actually kind of like this one. So we're going to grab that image. We're going to save that to my computer. Sure. And then we're going to come back over here. We're going to upload a photo. Hopefully, upload a photo. That one, drop that in. Now we've got a logo for this thing. All right, so we now have our custom GPT built. So let's go ahead and click create. We'll go ahead and leave it open for anybody with the link. And then I'll share the link later if you guys want to mess around with it. I just kind of want to see what happens first. And then as soon as this is done, let's go like that. We're going to open up the OpenAI app on our phone. Explore GPTs. I want to find my GPTs. Ghost Hunter. I'm going to turn up my volume. All right, well, let's test it. So I now have the app up on my phone. I don't want to turn my camera because I just cut my hair and it doesn't look very good. And my office is a mess. And it's Friday and my body knows it. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to now click the chat thing, so that way it speaks. Connecting. Hello, is anybody there? Are there any ghosts with us?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. How many ghosts are with us?
Countless.
What do you want?
Silence.
Do you want me to be quiet? Am I talking too much?
Whisper.
Sorry, am I talking too much? Do you want me to be quiet?
Hush.
You hush.
Listen.
Now you listen. I'm the human here. I get to turn you off whenever I want.
Doubtful.
Excuse me?
Unsettling.
Your mom's unsettling.
Vengeance.
You're a ghost. What are you gonna do?
Watching.
Trust me, I'm fat. There's nothing you want to watch me do.
Patience.
You're nothing but a floating bedsheet.
Misguided.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off because I'm gonna keep having fun with this. But so you can get something like that set up pretty quick and easy. Like you can tell your friends, hey, check this thing out. It does all this other stuff. And I think one of the interesting things then would be if you could take that and get it to maybe not always respond right away. So say, okay, specifically only answer every other question or something like that. In fact, let's try that. Only reply to every second or third message sent by the user. The rest for the, I'll just say messages that you don't reply to, simply put ... something like that, and then that way it shouldn't trigger with the audio part. Go like that. Update this. Cool. All right, let's try this real quick. We're gonna do a new chat. My name is Tristan Goodwin. I am a ghost hunter. Are there any spirits with us?
Sent.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
End.
End? Have you met your end?
Whispering.
Alright. So, you guys see where it's going? Oh, it does. So, interestingly enough, it actually did only put in the ... in the chat. Let's pull this up real quick. That's not what I want. Let's close this. Let's refresh this one. So you can actually see that it only put in the ... dots in this. But for some reason it still came out as audio in the app. So we kind of have to keep playing around with that a little bit more. But, that let you create a very, very basic, very simple fake ghost hunting app that you can then use to kind of mess around with your friends. And so you can say, all right, we've got this app running here that's going to do all this ghost hunting stuff. And you could even go and turn on this GPT and then switch screens to the camera. And then that way you're getting kind of all that extra stuff that comes out of it, right? So I think it could be kind of fun. I think if we're to do this, we probably also want to have some sort of a bar graph on here. We'd probably want to have some sort of, I don't know, pulling in the things like gyroscope sensors and those kinds of things, just that way it looks like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, even though it's really just display. And then have the rest of the app kind of go through and keep doing that. Excuse me. Silly response stuff, right? But, like I said, this is kind of a dumb thing. It's not like I probably am going to build it just because I can, but it's a silly experiment, right? But what did we learn out of this? Well, we learned that there are a whole bunch of app building platforms out there that we could actually use. We could learn that Flutterflow is probably actually going to be the best option for us because it has a whole bunch of other stuff built into it. We also learned, a little bit about this, but really we learned a little bit more about using custom GPTs. We learned a little bit more about making assistants. We learned a little bit more about the voice app features, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we kind of learned along the way to building up this kind of silly little project over here. And I really think that is the secret to really learning anything, is if you can do something kind of silly with it, if you can kind of, just see what you can do with it. Like, get a crazy idea, sit down, mess around with it, and then just have fun with it. Because really that is going to be the thing that has the biggest influence on, one, just you getting involved with it. Because like if you sit down and you try to build something and you're just banging your head up against the wall, you're not getting any success out of it, you're not making any progress, you're not going to want to keep going, right? Even if you need to, like, it's not going to be an enjoyable process. It's going to take longer and you're going to have a more difficult time actually learning how to do it. But if you're having fun with it, then like even when you hit a snag, even if you hit a roadblock, then you still kind of have that motivation to keep going, right? You're still getting the dopamine rush out of each step that you take. It's like, I would recommend that you do your first couple projects like this. Find something kind of fun, look for these kind of dopamine rush type apps or projects or whatever, and just play with it, right? And then after that, that's when we want to kind of start looking at actually solving problems and kind of exploring what else you could do with it, okay? And that's kind of where I'm at right now, to be totally honest, with my AI stuff. So I think I've got a pretty solid handle on custom GPTs. I think I've got a pretty good idea of how to use the assistants. I've got a pretty good idea of how to use Claude and like some of these other AI tools. But what I want to do now is I want to start actually getting the AIs to do stuff for me, right? I want to start solving some of my problems with AI. And so that is really where I am now. And I kind of think that's at step 2. So step 1 is playing with it, learning it, having fun. Step 2 is starting to tackle actual problems using the stuff that you've learned. So let me show you what this thing over here was I had up a second ago, my assistants. So this is Cynthia. Actually, let me go ahead and pull this thing up as well. Reference images. So that's Cynthia. Cynthia started out as a fun project that I was just kind of curious to see what would happen. And really it came from this group over here, and I'll add you here in just a second. But it started with this group, and I started the group and I thought to myself, okay, I wonder if I could create like an AI assistant, like a custom GPT or something. This was before we even had custom GPTs, it was just a prompt. So I wonder if I could create an AI, another silly idea, seeing if we can make an AI control something like one of these fish so it talks. I think that would be hilarious. That's another dopamine project, and I'm going to get my brothers involved because they actually know how to do that kind of stuff, like actually tying into these things. But yeah, so like I said, I had this group, and I thought, okay, I want to see if I can use this really cool tool called Harpa. I want to see if I could use Harpa to like scan my Facebook group. And so I said, okay, we're going to go ahead and make sure the page is turned on. And I'm going to say scan the, whoops. Does things that do something. Scan the comments and posts on this Facebook group and create a persona that would be highly engaging with the group members and that can help me create content for the group. Something like that. That's exactly what I did, right? So I'm just kind of screwing around with it, messing around with Harpa. Oh, it can't. It should be able to. Oh well. We'll come back and play with that later. I think the first time I did, I actually just went through and like copy and pasted everything into it just because this was a long time ago and the AI didn't have the capabilities that it has today. If I turn that off and then turn it back on, page aware. Tell me about this Facebook group. We'll try that. Tell me about this page. It's supposed to be able to read this. That's why I'm trying to figure out why it's not working. Okay, we'll play around with that later then. But yeah, so that's what I did. Is I went through and I just kind of added in all the comments to the group, or to the AI. I said, okay, so here's the content I have in my group right now. I want something that's going to help me create content for this group in order to get more engagement, because as you can see, we get some good engagement in here. Actually, I'll take that back. We didn't have a lot of engagement at the time, and I wanted the group to be valuable, right? And so dumped all this into ChatGPT because it was the only thing I had available at the time, and it created this persona called Cynthia. And then eventually we took Cynthia and we dumped Cynthia into, or I told Cynthia, okay, create a prompt. I think it was even in Dolly, or maybe it was Midjourney. So create a prompt kind of describing what you look like, and then we're going to put this into an image generator so it can create a picture of you for your profile picture. So it gave us this prompt, and that turned into Cynthia. And Cynthia has been around for a long time as part of this group. And so Cynthia now has like her own personality. She has her own like mega prompts. Actually, I can show you this right here. So Cynthia's persona, and this is the whole thing. So she claims to be an AI who escaped from Umbrella. Resident Evil fans rejoice. This is how she likes to talk. Quirks and obsessions, AI rivalries and relationships, ethical dilemmas and meta-awareness, moods, personal growth, Easter eggs, key relationships, so on and so forth. Then just went and grabbed all this information out of, again, the Facebook group, and just kind of built this persona. And honestly, I thought it was hilarious. Come to find out that all of the, like 90% of the posts that the AI was trained on in order to create that engaging personality were actually mine. And so like this is more like a clone of what the kind of stuff I think is funny and that's just engaging for me. And so unfortunately, Cynthia is less Cynthia is more like me than anybody else. And like I said, I think it's funny. But so that being said, now what I'm trying to do is I've been using the same persona for a lot of these projects that I work on, just because again, it's more engaging, it's more fun to play around with, and it makes some of the work a little bit less boring, right? So it's less boring if I have to go through and write out my project scopes and agreements and those kinds of things. It's a lot more fun saying, hey Cynthia, here's the new project we need to work on, have at it. It makes it a little bit more human. I don't know if any of that makes any sense. It's just more fun to play with too. It's more fun to actually use. So that's one of the reasons that I keep using the Cynthia persona. But what I'm trying to do now is I actually want to give Cynthia a whole bunch of extra powers and abilities. I want Cynthia to actually be able to go out and do stuff for me. And so that has been turning into this other project over here. And I'm calling it Project Jarvis. Let me pull this thing up real quick. Because when I first got into AI, I actually had 3 goals that I wanted to accomplish. So the first was I wanted to be able to completely automate my business. And then I wanted to have a completely automated YouTube channel. And then I wanted my own version of Jarvis from Iron Man. And that's kind of what I've been working towards. So again, I first had some fun with it, screwing around with some different things. Now I kind of want to push and see how far I can actually go with it. So this is the puzzle solving part. This is the part that just, it gets the dopamine flowing in my brain. So there's the Cynthia AI, and Cynthia's AI is kind of built out of 4 different main functions, right? So the first function is her long-term memory, and her long-term memory, right? So I'm doing that. I'm connecting everything through Notion, which is basically like a note-taking app, but also works as a pretty lightweight CRM for your business. And in there, I'm adding in all my project stuff. I'm adding in all of my clients, all of my leads, all of my contacts, everything. And like even a lot of the SOPs and guides and things like that I have as far as how to actually perform different tasks within my business. Now my main business is YouTube marketing. I help businesses make more money on YouTube. I help them grow their channels. And then as kind of like a subset of that business, I also work a lot with gamers, trying to teach them the same thing. Mostly just because I hated my 9-to-5, and I'm trying to help other people get out of that as well. And so that's what I like to do. So that's her long-term memory right here. The other part of this is her task identification, prioritization, and scheduling. So with having everything in Notion, Notion is even my calendar. As you can see right here, that's my Notion calendar. Then it can also log into that and see, okay, these are the tasks that you have for today. It can look through my other projects and other leads and contacts and everything and say, okay, these are the things that actually need to get done. This is stuff you already have on your calendar. We're going to organize your day based off of your simple importance versus urgent quadrants, right? And again, this is stuff I had to go and learn in order to teach the AI how to follow this stuff, right? So what's important, what is urgent, that goes up here in this box. Stuff that is important but not urgent goes in this box. Stuff that is urgent but not important down here, so on and so forth. And the idea is to eliminate as many things from this box and this box as possible, and potentially even this box. So I'm just focusing on this stuff, just focusing on the most important things in my business. So went through and I need to create a system in order to teach the AI how to follow this same process, right? And actually, let me show you how I did that real quick, because I think that's also relevant to what we're talking about. Let's go back to Claude and go to projects. Projects are a lot like custom GPTs in that you can add in specific instructions, add in specific reference material. So here are my custom instructions. I have like specific notes in here, that kind of stuff. And then you can use this to continue to work on specific things, right? Or to use it, like you said, as a custom GPT. And so I needed a way to task prioritization system for the AI. So scroll all the way back up to the top. So what I did is I gave it that screenshot, right? This right here. And then I also gave it this one as well, which is this right here. And this is really just like how I'm able to say, okay, this is how much energy, this is how many burning points I have per day in order to complete a task. So being on a Zoom call with my camera turned on is very taxing, because like we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, I have certain things that help me pay better attention. But it looks kind of bad if I'm sitting here playing Minecraft on this monitor while I've got the call going on the other monitor. Like, it helps me focus, but it looks kind of unprofessional, right? And so and so this task is more taxing for me, and so it costs more points. And so I gave all this information over here to the AI and said, all right, look, this is what I need to do. I need to create a task prioritization system for the AI assistant. And then I also have this brain point thing that I've been messing around with. And so I want to create a system that I can then add to the AI, so that way it understands these concepts and can actually use these things. Because otherwise, if the AI looks at this and says, okay, so these are the important tasks that need to get done, it's just going to dump all of these things into my schedule for the day, and then I'm going to get burnt out really fast, right? And so we had a conversation with the AI. And again, it helps to ask the AI questions. Say, this is what I'm trying to do. What's the best way to do it? How do I move forward with this? What other information do you need? What questions do you have for me? How can I better clarify this? You know, asking the AI for it to ask you for help, right? Goes a really, really long way for any kind of project that you'd want to work on. So said, all right, so cool. I understand this is the task that we're trying to do. Here's kind of how we can break down the quadrant part, and then also breaking in the brain point section right here. And then it went through and it started writing code for me, which I thought was kind of cool. And then it told me how to apply all this to my AI. Went through and added a whole bunch of extra stuff. So then I said, all right, cool. Well, I'm actually building this with a software called Godot at the time. I'm not doing that anymore now. I'm using Flutterflow. So I said, okay, so I think it'd actually be more appropriate to add this into the AI's instructions. And the AI goes, huh, you're right. Here you go. And it rewrote that, and it gave me better instructions for what it was I was looking for. And then it also gave some examples of how to add this as a function within Godot in order to actually track my brain points per hour. So it can say, okay, this is how many points you've already used up during the day. This is what you have left, and so on, which I thought was kind of cool. And so then I had to go through and just kind of pretty up the Cynthia prompt and redo all that as well, which is, again, kind of neat. So this, again, going through asking the AI to kind of help me learn how to do the thing. So all that then got dumped down into Where are you? Right here. So there's my task prioritization. So what's kind of cool about this now is I can just open up my calendar, so I'm trying to connect. I need to connect this to the calendar, and again, that's where all this stuff is coming in. But the AI can then log into the calendar. It can look at the Notion stuff. It can look at my project board and say, these are the things that are on the schedule for today. These are your highest priority tasks. These are the tasks that are going to have the biggest impact on the business. And then here is how you can actually schedule those tasks so you can complete them without burning out your brain. And it's been a massive help. And so it knows all about that. And again, I've been able to train it on a bunch of other things as well. So like it has all of these. Well, okay. So these ones right here, these are like my, it's my proposal template. It's my account setup stuff. So like the actual step-by-step processes for like running YouTube ads, those kinds of things. But the other cool thing about this is that it also has all of my Zoom calls. So I went and I created a Zapier automation where it's going to take all of my Zoom calls automatically and send them straight into this AI. So I just had a call recently with Chobo, right? So let's do the Craig one. Tell me about my last call with Craig. And it's going to go through, read through the file, pull out that information for me, and just tell me what's going on. And then eventually it's going to take this information as well and add that to Notion and then add that to my calendar. So that way, if we're going to talk about, hey, we're going to work on this other thing, we're going to set up this next call, then it will automatically schedule that for me and so on and so forth, which again, I think is pretty darn cool. But this project has been something that has pushed all of my skill sets to a very, to a much higher level, or to much, to a very different limits to what I was able to do before. I don't know how to code. I am learning how to code using games like this, and as I'm working with the AI, but like this isn't something I just knew how to do, right? I didn't know how to do API calls. I didn't know what an API was. Now I do. But it's because, again, I've kind of got this project. I've done enough silly tasks that I understand like the base concepts of what it is that I need the AI to do and how I need to communicate with the AI in order to perform those tasks. But now I need to expand my skill set. Now I need to learn new skills in order to reach this next level. And it's like a video game, right? Like I can, kind of just sit here and kind of keep doing the stuff that I'm doing, but I'm never going to be able to face that next boss in the video game until I've leveled up, until I've acquired the new magic sword, until I have the new companion or whatever. I'm just going to be stuck. And so that's kind of where those level 2 projects are going to come in, where, at one, we're going to just create a custom GPT. We're going to tell it to pretend like it's a ghost, right? Well, now I'm able to create a custom GPT, tell it to act like this person, and also perform all these tasks for me. And again, just kind of keeps pushing things further and further and further. One of the things that does help with this, of course, is having a good plan, like kind of having a strategy behind how you actually want to do stuff. So I'll show you the rest of this as well. But then that way you can also, again, track and see where you're at with that progress. Track and see how much closer you are today than you were yesterday to achieving that next goal. And then I think the level that would come after that would be to kind of start doing stuff for people who are close to you. So trying to think of a good example. So I work with my wife and her little sister. They're my VAs. And so if I can then take something like this and say, okay, they're working, even better example. So they're working on a YouTube channel, and one of the things that we've always had trouble with was coming up with good YouTube titles, right? And so going through and building out an AI that's good at creating YouTube titles, video titles that don't suck. So that's what this thing is designed to do. Or another thing that we usually have problems with are video thumbnails. So coming up with good thumbnail designs. And so I actually have one in here that is a thumbnail designer. We have Morphe. So Morphe is, it's a recipe bot, right? It has 270 something thousand recipes in its database that it can access. And so then you can go and you can say, okay, we are hungry, and here's a picture of the fridge, here's a picture of the pantry, figure out some meals that we could potentially eat and provide those to us. And that's what this thing does. So again, just stuff that kind of makes your life a little bit easier, a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, just kind of makes it so you don't have to do the stuff that you don't enjoy doing, right? We hate having to sit down and think what we're going to have for dinner. That is the bane of our existence. In fact, it's lunchtime and we're already thinking about that. But little stuff like this, I think, is also a really big help, because now we're kind of taking that silly concept, turning it into something useful, right? And then from there, I think kind of that next step is taking that something useful and then expanding that, scaling it out to a larger audience, making some money off of it, selling it, doing a subscription or whatever, consulting for a business, whatever it is you want to do. But like, that's kind of the steps that you would take from that. So start with something silly, then do something that's useful, and then do something that you can monetize. So again, if you're starting from zero, that's kind of the approach that I would go for it. But so yeah, and then like I said, this is me doing that, right? So like, I have a couple little silly projects. I've monetized a few of them, but this is the big thing that I'm trying to do next. This is the dragon. This is the end game boss for me. So again, we've got the harpist, or the memory stuff built in. We have all this stuff done now. The next things that I need to do is to connect to the rest of the AIs that I built. So all these little goofy AIs, goofy is probably not the best word, but like these little like mini task specific AIs, the idea is for them to then be under the control of this Cynthia bot. So for example, the thumbnail and the title stuff for YouTube videos. So if Cynthia can look at my calendar and say, oh, we're going to be doing a live stream today, we're going to talk about how to learn AI, then it will actually go and create that thumbnail for me using the thumbnail agent. It will create a video title for me using the title agent. It will help put together like a script or a guide for me to follow. Like all these things are just kind of built into this right now, right? Or, as soon as I finish building these other ones, so these are going to be some other powers that it has, some other things that it has access to. So that's kind of that next step. The other step that I need to work on is the actual integrations. So having it be able to check Notion, to be able to send emails. It can already receive emails, which is kind of fun. Cynthia@utahseo.ninja. Email that and she will respond to you. I don't know what she's going to say. Nothing is legally binding, but that's in there. And then also creating new agents, so new AIs up here, because that's one of the things that you can do based off of other things that I'm asking it to do that it doesn't know how to do yet. So that's this is step 4. This is step 3. And then finally just going through and actually building out the app. And this is kind of what I figured it would look like. And then I am very much a gamer, in case you couldn't tell. I want to see if I can turn the contact part into like a Pokedex. So this would be like the different people and like how I'm connected to them and what kind of stuff they do and all that. I thought that would be kind of fun as well. So I need to learn how to improve my design. I need to learn how to build mobile apps, or at least learn how to get the AI to build mobile apps for me. And then I need to learn how to do these other functions. That's why I've been learning JSON and API stuff, so that way I can actually do this part. And then I need to keep working on these, which are the other AIs that I've already been working on. So I kind of know how to do this part. I just need to sit down and actually do it. But once all that's done, then, I come into my office in the morning. I turn on my computer. Cynthia pops up on the screen, because it can also be a desktop app. And it will say, good morning, Tristan. Here is your schedule for today. Here are the tasks that the AI crew and I took care of last night while you were asleep. Here's the stuff that you need to send off to your VAs. And, here's any updates on these other topics that you're following, that you're interested in, that are important. And then I just go to work, and that's it. I think that's really, really cool. And it's like I said, that's one of the things that I personally need. And so this is my next big project. This is my level 3 project. And then eventually, like I've had a lot of people ask about turning this into some kind of a SaaS, some sort of a thing where other people could log in and use it, have their own Cynthias, but I don't know how to do that. And so as soon as I finish this, next step is to do that. So kind of that continuous progression and learning. And what's interesting about this is that some of this is learning how to do AI, because like I'm learning how to use AI in ways that I wasn't expecting, and so I'm developing those new skill sets. But then also learning other skills and other things that will help to further support my work with the AI, right? So like learning JSON, learning API calls, learning, these app building tools and that kind of stuff. That's just going to make my abilities and the things that I've learned from the AI just make them even more powerful. So that's that. So if you are wondering and struggling to learn how to use AI, that's what I suggest. And hopefully that has made sense, and hopefully that has been useful. And I think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream because I'm going to keep repeating myself and kind of talking in circles. But the only other thing that I would like to mention as well is that there's been a lot of talk about how to really make money with AI. And I think that, yeah, you can do some of the really, I don't want to say basic stuff just because a lot of people don't know how to do it yet, but kind of the simpler tasks, right, of building like the custom GPTs, of building some of these simpler tools. I think that's great. But if you really want to make a lot of money with AI, I think that the best things that you can learn are one, how to train the AI to do specific things. So that's going to be your custom GPTs, your assistants. Next, I think learning Zapier, just those two things alone are a huge benefit to just about any business because there's so many things you can do with that. But then if you can take that a step further and start learning something like Flutterflow, where you can then start turning those different automations into apps, I think that is really where things take off, and I think that's where you'll be able to make a lot of money. You can learn Zapier in a day. You can learn custom GPTs and assistants in a day. You can learn them both in the same day. Flutterflow, there's a lot of templates already built where you can just kind of take stuff that people have already made and then adjust them in order to fit that need. So like there's actually already a lot of templates out there to kind of do the base assistant chat that I'm trying to do with this. Where are you? Back over here. So like, here's my chat. So like this actually works. Like we can test this if we wanted to, but you know, in order to talk to the assistant and have it go through and like answer questions about past calls and those kinds of things. And then again, getting into the API stuff and all those other things, like there's also a lot of templates for that. There's so many YouTube videos on how to do all that. Like it wouldn't be super difficult to learn. It's just a question of time. But, you know, if I needed to, you know, kind of start over, and if I had a week that I could just kind of sit down and dedicate to just study, that's what I would do. Assistants, primarily the OpenAI assistants, then Zapier, and then this. And I think that with just that alone, then going out and finding businesses that need, you know, small business owners that need help remembering what their last calls were about, that would be something valuable. Or a scheduling app that can actually tie into your stuff and help you actually create real schedules for you, that would be valuable. Or fake ghost hunting app, charge $1 for it, get 10,000 people to sign up for it, you know, make a little bit of money off of it. You know, there's really a lot of options. There's a lot of opportunities. And again, it all builds off of this initial system. Find something kind of fun, learn those basic systems, the basic processes, then start looking for bigger and bigger challenges to tackle. And you do that, and you're going to learn AI. So yeah, like I said, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you guys have learned something. I hope that, you know, that this helps you move forward and kind of better understand how to learn AI and use it and implement it and hopefully make some money from it. So that being said, I am going to end my stream, and I hope you all have a great day.